Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
We're just a fantastic couple in love that loves reacting to some Fallout.
Yes, we do. We're fantastic for Fallout. Does that work? I don't know, maybe?
Yeah, that works, sure. And so if you want all of our Fallout reactions, check out the description of this video. We got a playlist there for you. This is Fallout Season 1, Episode 12, Episode 13. Old Time Religion. All right, so if you want early ad-free access to our Fallout reactions, we also have a link to our Patreon there. You won't just get early access to Fallout, but all of our other reactions on Definitely Not Definitive games and Definitely Not Definitive. Are you ready?
No. It's time for a drink.
Yeah.
Because it's Fallout, and Fallout has been so much part of this channel, it now has its very own drink, which is the Stimpak Spritzer. And so you need to put a Stimpak in it. Very important. And then you kind of give it a little stir, and boom. There we go. We now have our Stimpaks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning.
God, this intro is so good.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I know we've said it a lot, but we haven't said it in a while, and like, I don't know. It just kind of hit me today.
Yeah, it needs to be said.
Bum, bum. Yeah, I did a really good job with this.
Imagine a world where the only limits are that of your imagination. A world where science meets religion, where technology and spirituality go hand in hand. Scientific Spirituality by Dick Hubble gives you a new look at today's problems. Order your copy of Scientific Spirituality today or visit your local Hubology mission for a free Zeta scan. Hubology.
Zeta scan?
Yeah.
There is a higher plane of existence.
Oh, and they just leave you in there. That's nice.
Before the war, people prayed to all sorts of gods. Most of those old religions didn't survive the war. No time to memorize scripture or recite prayers when every minute of the day is spent scavenging for food. Nowadays, every bombed-out town in the wasteland has the remains of an old church in it, but most of them are empty, save for the radroaches and feral ghouls. If the old world gods are coming back, they sure are taking their time with it. In the meantime, the more superstitious folks in the wasteland have been making up their own religions to help them get through the day. There's a group of kooks out east who worship a nuclear bomb that's right in the center of their town. The thing was a dud that didn't go off during the Great War back in 2077. It's been sitting there ever since. Some of the locals must have thought it was divine intervention that prevented it from exploding, and this holy relic has been spreading thyroid cancer to the faithful ever since. These children of Adam have been in that town since its construction. Their obsession with atomic energy means that they know a lot about engineering, so the townsfolk put up with them. They have a preacher who stands in the radioactive mud telling anyone who will listen about the glory of Adam and the holy glow that awaits folk who die of radiation poisoning.
Of course.
The children of Adam split into another group that hunkers down in a basement one town over. They aren't so much concerned with the bombs as they are with the effects of radiation on certain people. These apostles of the holy light think that ghouls are lucky souls who've absorbed enough of Adam's love to evolve beyond humanity. A comforting thought for the handful of ghouls who cram into their tiny sanctuary during services, but the church doesn't have a lot of people begging to convert. There was a town around the 2240s that was convinced they had a rat god living in their sewers. The townsfolk didn't worship the thing, but it seemed like the local mole rat population had taken a shine to it. The rodents organized somehow and chased the humans out of part of the town for a while. Some adventurous types killed that king rat a long time ago, putting an end to the whole cult, but that wasn't the only rodent god worshipped in the wasteland. Some ghouls over in the town of Gecko had a mysterious preacher deep beneath the town. Turned out to be one mighty articulate vermin with some fancy plans. Promised the ghouls all that their humanity would be renewed through some supernatural force. Nothing ever came of it, but ghouls don't grow old, so the original cultists might still be there praying away and hoping for the best. Then there is this old cult known as the Children of the Cathedral, and was perceived since its foundation in 2156 as little more than superstitious, harmless nonsense. Tolerated by the wasteland, they set up hospitals throughout survivor communities. The imposing cathedral in the boneyard was their center of power, covering up their sinister plans. Their dark god was the master of the supermutants, the holy flame dwelling beneath the ground in the darkness. Most people had never encountered anything like him. Useful mutations are rare, and among his many uncommon mutations was a powerful form of telepathy. Go on and laugh, but the files at the Mariposa military base confirm that the Master and several other people developed psychic powers after being exposed to the forced evolutionary virus. The Master was lucky in a sense. His evolved state allowed him to use his powers without going too insane. The cult worshipped his hideous visage, some following out of greed, others out of sincere belief, strengthened by brainwashing, self-torture, and other indoctrination.
Lovely.
They did his bidding blindly and spread out through the wasteland, their hospitals stocked with weapons and spies to infiltrate survivor settlements and pave the way for their armies. Like it or not, there are some goings-on in the wasteland so terrifying that they'll turn a body to prayer. In Maryland, there's a building that scavengers have stayed away from over the centuries.
Yeah.
On moonless nights, the surrounding lands have shadowy forms that
glow in the dark.
speaking the words Al-Hazred, words a human mouth was not meant to speak. Those who ventured inside claim to have witnessed dark rituals on an unholy altar, seen the dead rise and unnameable horrors appear through fetid mists. Sounds like a bunch of ghouls having a party, but that old office building is still one of the most bizarre places the wasteland holds. Whatever eldritch rites those ghouls practice is certainly from the old world, maybe even older than mankind. A handful of other pre-war cults proved to be tougher than roaches too. Not even the apocalypse could get rid of something called Hubology. Even before the war, most people knew that Hubology was a load of bunk. It was made up by a fellow named Dick Hubble to bamboozle people out of their caps. Claimed that the spirits of dead aliens were the cause of everyone's problems, or some such
Sounds like
Scientology.
Scientology. Yeah.
Hubologists would clear out these invisible neurodynes for a price. They were still running the same racket out in Frisco for centuries after the Great War. One of the few old-time religions to stick around this long is something they called Mormonism. Mighty popular in the Mojave before the war, and it had a pretty good run after the apocalypse too, until they drew the attention of Caesar's legion. Now there's fewer of them than ever. That religion isn't likely to die out though. The remaining Mormons are resilient to say the least, and they carry more than scripture these days. There's an old Mormon fort over in New Vegas, but there's no Mormons there anymore. It's a base for the followers of the apocalypse. With all of these groups and their fancy names, it would be easy to think that the followers of the apocalypse are some sort of doomsday cult.
Yeah.
But despite the name, they aren't a religious group. They aren't trying to create another apocalypse. They're trying to heal the world in the wake of the last one. The followers were founded out west in New California a few generations after the Great War. First founded on the outskirts of San Diego, which you call Dayglow now. The followers migrated and settled into an old world library, out in the boneyard. Led by Nicole, they realized just how much of humanity's knowledge had been lost in the decades since the war. Instead of hoarding that knowledge, they decided to share it, to ensure that the Great War would not happen again. Nicole and her followers even had a hand in helping the Vault Dweller infiltrate the Master's Cathedral, and the organization lives on today. The followers have a few things in common with the Brotherhood of Steel. Both like to dig up pre-war tech, but the Brotherhood is mostly interested in weapons. They refuse to share their technology with outsiders. The followers are more concerned with how pre-war society grew their food, generated their energy, and healed the sick. Unearthing the weapons that caused Armageddon isn't part of their plan for the wasteland. They'd rather see some of the secrets of the old world remain buried, and that puts them at odds against some of the other factions of the wasteland. The followers have a complicated relationship with the new California Republic. The NCR knows that the followers can be useful allies in the arms race against the Brotherhood and the Legion. But the pacifist nature of the followers means that they are at odds with the NCR's expansionism. They have since split ways, with NCR supporting a more pliable, agreeable group of dissident followers, the Office of Science and Industry. Of course, as pacifists, they would never be tolerated by the Legion. Caesar himself was raised by the followers. Taken in when he was just a child, but their teaching obviously didn't stick. Back when Caesar was a young scribe working for the followers, he soaked up all that he could learn from them, then turned that knowledge toward a path that would horrify Nicole and the other founders of the group. The followers are still very accepting of outsiders, though. People who value education and are willing to use their knowledge to ease the suffering of the world are always welcomed. There's even an individual among them who's descended from the surviving members of the Enclave, and it seems he uses the followers as a path to redemption for the sins of his father. That's a long road to walk, and a precarious position for a man to be in, torn between loyalty to a monstrous lineage and an idealistic quest for absolution. The followers are doing their best to carry the fire of humanity with them as they aid the most unfortunate people in a world of suffering. They prove that what a person does is more important than what they believe. Very few of the followers could think that they're heading to a place of everlasting peace after they die. Like most folk in the wasteland, all they're hoping for is a quick death and the satisfaction of knowing they made the world slightly less horrific. The followers know that knowledge of the old world has its uses. Those pre-war types sure knew how to grow food and build houses. Although there are some who take the pursuit of knowledge a little too seriously. The unbridled Poindexters who designed the weapons that got the world into this mess in the first place.
Yeah.
Some of those smarty-pants old world folk are still with us today.
Just call them smarty pants.
Found a drastic method of keeping up their research for a couple more centuries. They have a private facility out in the middle of nowhere, filled with lobotomized zombie soldiers, giant robot scorpions, and teddy
Mobius?
bears. But that is a story for another day.
The eyes and everything like that, and the mouth.
Oh, that is creepy.
Oh, cool.
Creepy.
That's pretty sweet. Looking forward to that next episode. So what do you think about this one?
I really enjoyed it. I think it was kind of interesting the evolution of what people believe in the post-apocalyptic world and sort of like what they have to latch onto, because you need something to keep going, especially in a world like that. I mean, not like our world is a picnic per se, but in a world like that, you definitely need something. And one of the really great things about religion is that at its best, it inspires and it provides hope, and it appeals to our better angels and tries to instill in us that we should lean into that. Because religion's just like people, right? Like everything has a shadow side and a light side. Religion at its best can do all these wonderful things, but at its worst, on the shadow side, it can become really toxic. And their talk of like that brainwashing and the self-mutilation and I mean, like that's the shadow side.
Yeah, and when he was talking about that, I was interesting how some people do it because they actually believe in the cause, and other people do it for greed or for power, which is very true. And with the followers, I mean, those people are the ones I like the best, just because they're trying to make the world a better place, and they don't, that's just that. I like the fact that they are trying to use their knowledge for good, but at the same time, knowledge is power, but how you use that power isn't always necessarily for good. And but you wonder with Caesar, if he was raised by somebody else, would Caesar's Legion even have happened? Because he wouldn't have gotten that knowledge of the previous Caesar and everything like that, and gotten that inspiration and whatnot. But so even though he was with like the pacifist group, obviously, like he said, the narrator said, he didn't take those teachings to heart. But he did gain knowledge, and that helped him gain power. And then he just used it horribly.
I also found it interesting, the comment that, what people believe doesn't matter. It's their actions that matter. Yeah. And I've just found that interesting because I don't think I had necessarily thought of them as not linked, because what people believe in so often informs their actions. But he drew a really distinct line in that. And I just found that to be very interesting. If somebody is acting or whose actions are counter to what maybe we would perceive their beliefs are, one, ask yourself if your perception is right, because it might not be. But then two, it's interesting if somebody is able to act outside of that, because often we don't as humans. We find sort of what our moral compass is, what our beliefs are, and that informs so much of what we do and how we behave.
This was fun, though. I mean, fun with Fallout. And so, yeah. But I like the Children of Adam. That was ridiculous. Where like they're worshiping a nuclear bomb that hadn't gone off, and like they like enjoy radiation. Like that's the path to enlightenment is getting radiation, and sound like the Heaven's Gate kind of cult or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, so yeah, and then clearly the one that was just like obviously Scientology. That one was
funny.
Yeah.
You can get your Zed reading and then find out about the aliens inside. Anyway, religion is sometimes ridiculous. And I think even religious people would agree that some of the religions out there fall into a realm of somewhat of absurdity.
Yep.
And I think this was fun for the parallels that are in our society right now. What their possible evolution is in a post-apocalyptic world. And then Mormonism.
Yeah.
Hey, still around.
Still kicking strong.
The one religion that survives an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Which I couldn't help but think of like Book of Mormon and the guys walking around ringing on doorbells in the zombie apocalypse. But, that's just what happens.
So maybe
in my
Book
brain.
of Mormon's still around. They're still putting on that production.
Oh, that would be great. They need to laugh in the zombie apocalypse or the Fallout apocalypse.
You'll let us know what you thought about this down below in the comments. And if you want early ad-free access to all of our Fallout reactions, we got a link down below in the description of this video to our Patreon, as well as a link for our playlist, which has all of our Fallout reactions.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for checking out our reaction for Fallout Season 1, Episode 13, which keep in mind
that our reaction is definitely not definitive.